Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to IGCSE Success. Now today's video is going to be geared towards question 3 from paper 1, the extended writing response, and we are going to be looking at that dreadful, God forbid it should ever come up, it does come up sometimes, we're going to be looking at newspaper report writing. Now, if you've already gone through a wealth of past papers, you'll notice that a newspaper report seldom comes up. However, that's not to say that you should completely disregard learning how to write a newspaper report properly. So that perennial question, why is newspaper report writing so difficult, so challenging? Why do students invariably struggle when it comes to newspaper report writing? There are certainly a number of reasons, but some of the reasons why my students tend to struggle with newspaper report writing is, well, first and foremost, they don't tend to read newspapers. It's also the style of newspaper report writing. It needs to be formal, it needs to be objective, you need to use that passive voice. And all of these things together can make it quite a difficult writing task. Plus, I think there are perhaps a number of teachers who just hope and pray that it doesn't come up, so they don't bother teaching newspaper report writing. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. So I guess if you are a little bit unsure, uncertain, and you want to strengthen your newspaper report writing skills, make sure you watch the following presentation until the very end, and I will end the video with a model response. And without further ado, let's get on with today's video. Okay guys, let's start with the basics. What is a newspaper report? And if you've got a pen and notebook handy, you might want to jot down some of this information. So I'm just going to read off the slide. A newspaper report is a news story found in newspapers, and they are designed to provide people with information about what is happening in the world. Newspaper reports are those stories that you usually see on the front pages. News is new information, and it's usually about something that has just happened. All news reports follow a certain structure and have the same key features, and some of these features we will discuss and look at now. So some typical features include, of course, a headline. They are usually short and snappy, and we will look at how to write an effective headline shortly. Your first sentence or sentences really sum up what the story is about. So it's those kind of 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, and why. I think I covered all of them there. You write your report in third person, you use past tense. You want to avoid that I voice. You want to try and remain as objective as possible. Split your newspaper report into smaller paragraphs to help the reader clearly understand the information. You are going to need to include both direct and reported speech, and more on this later. And your tone is so important. And this is probably the reason why a lot of students find newspaper report writing quite difficult, because it's a completely different way of writing. So your tone needs to be suitable, it needs to be objective, it needs to be formal, no slang, no colloquial language. So in newspaper reports, journalists often use the passive voice, and this is another reason why students can find newspaper report writing quite difficult. And journalists often use what I call reporting verbs. And they use these verbs or this style of writing for a number of reasons. Firstly, to avoid any bias. Secondly, to avoid making any inaccurate statements. And lastly, to distance the journalist from the source of information. And some useful formal reporting verbs you may wish to jot down are believe, claim, expect, know, hope, report, understand. And some phrases you will often see peppered throughout newspaper reports include, it is believed that. Sorry, there needs to be a D on the end. It is known that. It is understood that. And of course, these type of phrases are really to avoid making any inaccurate statements. Just remember that big stories quite often are written very quickly and they are printed the following day. So sometimes journalists do not have all of the information to put together a complete picture or story. That's really important to remember. And of course, newspaper reports will include interviews or direct speech or quotations. And it's really important that you revise the difference between direct speech and reported speech. Let's have a look at some examples of direct quotations. So, Mr. Beast, a teacher at the School of YouTube, said, "There will be punishments for all those involved." Mr. AJ, an English teacher, said, "I didn't expect to see this type of behaviour." Notice the use of commas as well to separate the information. Mrs. Smith, the head of English, commented, "There are truly no words to what I witnessed." Now, on the next slide, we are going to be looking at the differences. Some are very small between direct speech and reported speech. But as I read these sentences out, see if you can notice differences in terms of how the sentences are formed and the grammar of the sentences. So, Mr. Beast, a teacher at the School of YouTube, said that those involved would be reprimanded for their involvement. Mr. AJ, an English teacher, said that she was shocked by what she saw. Apologies for getting the pronoun wrong there, Mr. AJ. Mrs. Smith, the head of English, commented that it was truly distressing. Now, let's take a look at a summary of some of the differences. So let's take that example of direct speech. "I didn't expect to see this type of behaviour," versus the reported speech, "said that she was shocked by what she saw." So with direct speech, it's very similar to direct speech in a story. There would be quotation marks. The direct speech is the exact words that are spoken by the person, so they haven't been changed or paraphrased. There's that first person pronoun I, and it's usually present tense. Okay, reported speech, however, there are no quotation marks, and sometimes the journalist paraphrases what has been said. So some of the words may well have been changed. Notice also the difference in pronouns. We've got that third person pronoun she. We've got a different tense there, so shocked versus saw. We've got that past tense, and that to introduce reported words. And of course, headlines need to be short, catchy. They need to grab the reader's attention straight away. And there are a number of ways you can achieve this. Let's look at some of the ways. So alliteration, students shocked over school shut down. You've got that repetition of that S sound. Powerful vocabulary choices. Small town plummets into darkness. So you've got that powerful verb plummets. You can simply opt to use a statement or a declarative. Dust haze settles over city. You can use a pun. Can you believe it? You're probably far too young to get that reference, but it's when Kanye West ruined Taylor Swift's Grammy speech. It was many years ago. You could also use a rhetorical question. When is enough enough? Or you can use an exclamation. It's all over. Now let's take a look at a model response using some of the features that we have discussed. So the headline is Shameless Student Pranks Teacher. What technique is being used there? Hopefully you said alliteration. Yesterday, shockwaves were sent through the School of YouTube after it was revealed that a teacher had been cruelly locked inside a store cupboard by a Year 10 student. So from that opening sentence, straight away, we know what the story is about. The teacher, who does not wish to be named. So another feature I forgot to mention, guys, is that newspaper reports often use what we call embedded clauses. So who does not wish to be named, that extra information there. Was reportedly locked inside for at least 3 hours before being rescued. It is known that the teacher was not able to seek immediate help as the store cupboard was currently out of use. It is also believed that the teacher was unable to use their phone as there was no signal from within the tiny cupboard. Fortunately, security staff from the school heard faint cries coming from the store cupboard, which prompted them to investigate further. Staff quickly jumped into action and unlocked the store cupboard, revealing the distressed member of staff. It is believed that it was the result of a prank which several Year 10 students were involved in. In bold there, guys, we've got those typical, journalistic phrases that we've mentioned before. After it was revealed, was reportedly, it is known, it is also believed. And you want to try and pepper those throughout your newspaper report. The teacher, who has been working at the school for many years, has reportedly taken some time off work to recover. According to several members of staff at the school, all students involved in the prank have been temporarily excluded and have been asked to think about their reckless actions. It is thought that one student has been permanently excluded for carrying out the prank. One student said that he heard of the prank but did not think the students would go ahead with it. Another said, "I couldn't believe they locked a teacher in a store cupboard. There was a YouTube video that went viral a couple of weeks ago and there was some chatter about pranking one of the teachers." And then we move on to the interviews. So Mr. Beast, the head of English at the School of YouTube, said, "This type of behaviour will not be tolerated." One member of staff at the School of YouTube have said that school will resume as normal from tomorrow and have stressed that appropriate sanctions have been put in place for all those involved in the prank. The head teacher of the school commented that pranks are on the uprise given the popularity of YouTubers who dedicate their channels to pranking misfortunate people. The school have asked that students not discuss this incident and try their best not to fuel any rumours or inaccurate information. And lastly, let's just recap some of the features I have included in this report. There's a catchy headline, the who, what, where, when and why. It's third person past tense. Factual information, there's opinions, direct speech, reported speech. The paragraphs are short and concise. There's embedded clause, and of course, there's that sort of journalistic language or newspaper reporting phrases. And there you have it, guys. That is how you write a winning and effective and accurate newspaper report. As always, if you have any questions or feedback, do leave them below, and I will see you again very soon. Until next time, bye-bye.